Welcome to episode 6 of The People's Project. I'm Matt Wong and this is Mon. Where are you? Ah, that's right. Mon's been very busy with the ominous omnibus bus protest. It's been a magnificent job you've been doing this week, Mon.
Sorry I'm not there with you today, Matt, but as you can see and as everyone's going to see very soon, it's been a really busy week. I'm feeling really hopeful, which is strange because the omnibus passed, of course, and the 5 kilometre rule is still in play. Rumours are that will be taken away on Sunday, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what Dan Andrews does there. But look, it's been a really positive week in other ways. You know, with the big bus, there was a great response. It was on all the mainstream media, not necessarily in a negative way either, which is great. And then there was Harry's clothing store in Berwick, which I think could be the start of a domino effect, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm really sorry I'm not there with you today, Matt, but I hope you understand and I hope everyone else does too. And you're going to do the show great justice, I'm sure of that.
It's not just the bus. We have some great guests on the show this week. We have Judy Mintu, the counsellor we had earlier in the week, having a conversation with us where it kind of descended into a therapy session for me, but it was good fun. We also have Angela Fithorkas with Hits and Misses. And of course, we have this big highlight reel of what happened on the bus the other day with some interviews with some MPs. And this is all thanks to The Real Rukshan. If you haven't seen his content on his channel on Facebook, he's putting out some amazing videos. He was on the bus documenting the day for us. So let's have a look at the highlight reel.
Reignite Democracy Australia has been travelling through the streets of Melbourne today.
Thank you so much for having me on board, and everyone in Victoria, have a look out for the bus. See it, honk your horn, all right?
Omnibus bill is being heard in Parliament today. I'm here with Beverly MacArthur. Now, Beverly was also a part of the Scrutiny of Acts and Regulations Committee, which had a hearing, I think it was on Friday, wasn't it? And we did a massive email campaign for that. So how many emails did SARC actually get in the end?
Well, over 3,000, Monica. Extraordinary effort.
Well done, guys, by the way. So tell me about that committee. I know you can't say too much, but what can you say? And
I can say that unfortunately those 13,000 are not on the SARC website. Only the selected submissions that they invited submissions for, which was actually from 3 institutions. They asked for 5, but only 3 contributed. So that despite the best efforts of the 2 minority members on SARC, we're unable to ensure that they're on the website. But this morning we'll be moving a minority report on the SARC Alert Digest. It's the sort of bastion of human rights. It has to ensure that legislation complies with the Charter of Human Rights. And, as 13,000 people have said, they're very concerned that it doesn't comply with the Charter of Human Rights. And so that's what we tried to prosecute. But we are 2 members on a committee that is controlled by the government.
Well, that's a problem there. Now, there were some changes to the omnibus bill. Is it still an infringement on human rights?
Well, I personally think it is. I think this government has been given unprecedented powers. I personally think they've abused them, and I don't see why Victorians should give them more power. So, we have crossbench MPs in the upper house who usually vote with the government. That's the problem. That's why the extension of emergency powers bill got through. So, it's going to be difficult. But, anybody that is concerned about the rights of individuals, their freedoms, their liberties, which have been so abused by the way this government has managed COVID-19. It's their fault that we're in lockdown. They let the virus escape from hotel quarantine. Marco Polo did quarantine well, and we can't here in Victoria. It's a scandal.
It'll be up to the crossbench, each and every individual crossbench member. It'll be up to them and their communities. They should talk to their communities, listen to their communities. My view is that the community is making a very clear point. They don't want the 5K rule. They don't want the heavy lockdown machinery. And, this 5K rule is not based on science. There's no logical science behind it. And Daniel Andrews should get rid of it now.
They keep saying, trust the experts, but the experts don't trust us. I mean, the experts have said they haven't shown us what the evidence is for this. They haven't shown us the assessments against the Charter of Human Rights. We've already seen legal challenges against some of these directions. And so, we want to be able to see the evidence. And so we'll definitely support getting rid of that 5K rule.
And do either of you think that Adam might turn up today?
I'd be surprised if he does. I think he's not going to vote against the government, because he hopes to come back one day. So he's just being absent.
Yeah, look, I don't know. He's had some things to say on social media recently with regards to civil rights and civil liberties. Maybe he'll change his tune. I don't know. I'd love to see a civil liberties supporting Adam Somyurek, but we'll wait and see what happens.
Now, the Omnibus Bill was obviously amended, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday last week. But in your opinion, is it still an infringement on human rights? Well,
it's yes, is the short answer. But authorised officers already have the ability of warrantless search and seizure. They're going to expand that to police, PSOs, WorkSafe officers, health people, and also interstate public servants. So, that alone is enough of a reason to oppose this bill. We don't like warrantless search and seizure, and let alone expanding it.
Look, we're drawing a line under this. The government, I don't trust how they've used their powers. They've abused their powers. I don't trust them with more powers. So there's no way that we will vote to give them any more power.
There was two main pieces of misinformation. One was about taking your children. This is totally wrong. There's a part in the bill about family reunifications. We actually think that this is a good thing. It's not about taking your children away. It's about helping families that are separated due to issues like substance abuse, giving them more time to get back together. So we're totally fine with that part of the bill. Another part of the bill that there was a lot of misinformation about, there was people talking about the idea that somehow the section relating to occupational health and safety somehow exempts the government from workplace manslaughter laws. I don't know where that came from. I haven't seen anyone give an analysis of how that would actually work. My team's looked at it in detail. We don't see how it can do that. So I think that's wrong. Look, there's enough bad stuff in the bill to oppose it without making stuff up. So, let's stick to the facts on these things, yeah. You'll be able to see what we say, what the crossbench say, what the opposition say, what the government say. Pay close attention to what everyone's saying. I mean, they're going to come out with their arguments. Ultimately, in a democracy, it's about you listening to their arguments and deciding whether you support these people or not.
And Tim?
Yeah, listen to the crossbench especially. They've had their positions out there. They've said things publicly. Now it's time to hold them to account for how they vote.
I want to say that there are Victorian politicians who actually stand with the people of Victoria, who seek to represent the people who have elected them and have sought to put them there. There are politicians in this state who still believe in the very foundation of our democracy, who still believe in the very fundamental freedoms that this state and this nation are built upon, and we will do everything within our power, absolutely everything within our power, to ensure that those freedoms are maintained in this once great state. And look, if we don't have success today, we're not going to stop. There's an election in November 2022, and we have every opportunity to convince the Victorian people in that time that there is an alternative to the current government. And I think the challenge for us in the next little while, Monica, will be to maintain the rage, to maintain the momentum, and to turf this Labor government out well and truly come the next state election. In a democracy such as ours, there is absolutely an alternative. And it's a call that every single Labor member of Parliament can be faced with today. And that is the option that they have, the option that the Liberal Nationals and Michael O'Brien is giving every Labor member of Parliament. They have a choice today when they vote in that no confidence motion. Their first choice is, do they back down the man who has made bad decisions and who has plummeted this state only into economic disaster, but with the deaths of 791 of our fellow Victorians? Or do they back the constituents, the local businesses, the families, the individuals who have been on their doorstep and ringing their offices? And I know they have been, because they've been ringing mine. Do they stand with their people, or do they stand with their political overlord? Do they stand with their political master? And that is the option that every Labor member has. Now, yesterday in media, we saw that there were some people within the Labor caucus who were prepared to, without it being attributed to them, say that there were leadership murmurings within the Labor Party. Well, I welcome that. I welcome more of that, because that is the only way that we're going to get rid of this man. As a local member of Parliament, representing 46,100 people in the wonderful electoral district of Sandringham, I've got two jobs. My first job is to try and take care of those people. And people have been coming to me in great tragic circumstances recently, and that's my first responsibility, and that's what I've been trying to do. My second job is to try and hold the government to account. And frankly, because we've been so overwhelmed with the first job, it's been difficult to focus on the latter. But now we're at a stage that we're at, and what we're trying to do is hold the government to account with this no confidence motion today. And very shortly what we'll be doing is proposing an alternative as we move closer to the next state election. Because it's one thing to be negative all the time, frankly, it's one thing to be negative all the time. It's another thing to actually propose what that alternative is. And if we're serious about governing in this state, we as a party are serious about governing in this state, then we need to give that alternative deep consideration. That alternative needs to be a credible alternative that we can credibly take to the Victorian people and say, we are ready. We are ready to do better than the current government.
I'm here at Harry's Clothing in Berwick. Now, Harry, you're a bit of a rebel. Tell me what's going on.
And I look at this lockdown and say, OK, we've given our Premier a fair opportunity. He has stuffed this up completely now as it's got out of control. We're never ever going to get down to zero or single digit numbers. We've got to open our businesses now. We're as low as we're going to be. Businesses are suffering, they're hurting, and they're dying. Whole communities will go. Berwick High Street, it'll be a ghost town if this continues. We can't go another week. We can't go 2 weeks, which looks like that's the indication. We have to open up our doors right now to survive. And I'm in that boat. I only had 6 months reserve to survive if I didn't have an income coming in. The tipping point for me was the fact that we weren't giving an end date. When are we going to get back to work? You just can't keep on moving the goalpost. Christmas Eve is the pinnacle of retail sales. And not only retail sales, but hospitality and everything. It's the best time. I have exceeded Christmas sales by 50, 60% in the last 2 days each day. I have sold out of stock. My store is empty. I'm actually closing for a few hours tomorrow morning to restock and reorder. The amount of support, people are just coming in and buying anything. I just had a lady then who come in and she said, I'll buy a gift voucher, $200. Who would you like it made out to? She had no one in mind. This is the wildest, crazy dream that I can ever have. I mean, I thought I might do an extra $300 or something like that. And I never believed this would blow out to be what it is. It's insane, crazily insane. My one message would be, get down there and support your small businesses. And if you are a small business owner, open up your business. Get this country going. We need our state up and running. We need to get our people back employed. We need our self-esteem back. Open your business.
Amen. And mic drop.
Angela, hits and misses, so good to have you on. What is happening with Australia this week?
It's been a big week, Matt. Now, if you can all imagine Australia as separate countries, so not states, but separate countries, and in fact, that's how we're actually acting at the moment. The eastern seaboard of Australia, it might have had a king or queen of Queensland, king or queen of New South Wales, etc. We all know that there's
chairman of Victoria, Chairman Dan. Yeah.
Yes, happening in Victoria. So this week what we've seen is anarchy and rebellion because 2 state governments have had votes of no confidence put up against them. It's important to clarify that both have, that's been lost, so it hasn't gotten up.
That's New South Wales you're talking about. You said
and
Victoria. And Victoria, yeah, I know of ours. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and New South Wales this week. Yep. The vote of no confidence in the New South Wales state government upper house was very close. It was 2020. It was only broken by the president.
Wow.
But that was a very loud statement.
Yes.
Now, I want to take you through it state by state. So in Queensland, what we had was, and we always know that Queenslanders, bless them, are a little bit different to the rest of Australia. Their form of rebellion has been just to chuck a couple of tomatoes at ScoMo. Coming from a hospitality background, I would say that surely you can find a better use for your produce, but you got to say what you got to say.
Yeah.
However, so ScoMo's popped in a flyby to, in ahead of the election that's coming up next month or thereabouts for Queensland, thinking that he was up there to really boost the LNP, but I'm sure they've said to him, it's okay, bro, go back where you came from. You can return to your hotspot of Sydney.
Yes.
And, we'll be fine without you. So the Queenslanders have rebelled against, I'm not sure what, because they've got their borders shut down. They're living quite apart from the rest of us. They don't really care what's happening around the rest of Australia. I mean, and, really, why should they? But as we've uncovered some data, regional Queensland is not prepared for an outbreak. And if anything did come about, they would find themselves in a much worse situation than what Victorians are in. So that's the serious note of it. So there's a reason why they're hanging on to their border closures. But on the other hand, what's the reality of what we're going through? Now, let's scoot down to New South Wales. I don't know if you've heard, but someone's made a bad boyfriend choice in New South Wales. And
yeah, that's bad. But I can't believe she was potentially going to go and have to resign or whatever, and Dan Andrews doesn't have to. What's going on up there?
Oh, okay. So I see you're drawing that distinction.
Well, Barry O'Farrell had to resign over wine. He didn't kill anyone.
No, he didn't. And for the moment, we would say that our New South Wales Premier hasn't resorted to that. But it sounded yesterday like she might kill a member of the press because of the kind of questions they kept asking her. So she did get a little bit agitated. Look, it's a very sticky situation here in New South Wales in regards to our Premier and what's been going on. And of course, it's caused a little bit of furor amongst, is she being treated fairly because she's a woman? What's actually at the base of this? Well, at the base of this, or right behind it, if you pull apart all the different levels here, the fact is that there was a relationship being conducted for an extended period of time while she was Premier, and the person that she was in this close personal relationship with, although it apparently wasn't of substance, and I'm sure if you were her boyfriend, that would be like a knife to your heart, right, after 5 years.
Ouch.
But the fact is that she says she had no idea that he was doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And one of those things is getting cash delivered to him through Parliament House.
I heard about bags of cash being taken to his parliamentary office. Oh.
Look, there's a little bit of confusion over whether that was 2 times or 20 times because he can't remember. Seen one bag of cash, seen them all, I would say to you.
Yes.
Now, let's jump down to the border, Victoria, sorry.
We have killed 800 people from hotel quarantine failures, so do tell.
Yes, and you have also put up a vote of no confidence on your Premier. And that failed as well with a resounding majority in support of him. Yep. The latest polls in Victoria show you're neck and neck of people hating him and not hating him. So I don't know what it is you guys are doing down there, but there's not enough of you that aren't happy. That seems to be a problem.
Yeah. Look, I have Gideon Rosner from the IPA coming in here tonight for my other show, and he has put out a poll today. Well, the IPA has put out a poll that only 41% support Dan, whereas you've got Newspoll saying 62, 63 a week ago. So I don't know where we're at with the polls.
Well, it all depends on who you ask and how you interpret data, right? So there's, who believes in polls. I mean, they said, Trump wasn't going to win against Hillary last time, and they've got Biden ahead right now. So I wouldn't be buying any shares in those companies because it's apparent that they don't know what they're doing. The interesting thing though with Dan is that he seems to be a little bit Teflon-like, right? No matter what he does, it's just, rolling off him. So it would be interesting to see how in the next couple of weeks, how he's going to deal with some of the tough data that's going to come out. We've got 1 million Australians accessing mental health changes that have come about. The fact that, kids 1 in 5 have really been hurt by these lockdowns. These are going to be long-term impacts that I really believe governments, if they don't step up and understand, history's going to show that they failed their people spectacularly because they had some kind of fear or secret eradication plan that's not working.
No longer a secret here in Victoria. The eradication is out of the bag from Jenny Mikakos, former Health Minister, and Brett Sutton. But hey, that's one giant miss, I assume you're painting the
One
Eastern
giant
Seaboard
miss.
with. Right.
Now, I've got some good news on the hit this week, and I thought I'd narrow it down and keep it to Victoria as well. And I'm just going to bring up my notes to make sure I get it right. There are some fantastic breweries in Victoria, two of note. One called the Bridge Road Brewers and the Beer Deluxe guys, and one is in Beechworth and one is in Albury. Now, these guys got together and made a new beer, a pink beer. And that is to, one, celebrate and make note of Breast Cancer Month in October, but also to raise funds for the Regional Cancer Centre in Albury-Wodonga. So this is some great Victorians getting together, making a brew, making it pink, trying to raise funds for a regional area that is in desperate need of support. I would call on every government in Australia to back some amazing projects that are happening regionally everywhere and take a bit of pressure off people. Now, Matt, this brewery in Beechworth has made a wasabi beer, and they've also made a barbecue chicken beer.
I'm into
and
the
now
chicken.
They're making it.
I wonder what it'd be like to have barbecue chicken beer with barbecue chicken.
I don't want to know. I'm happy to have the pink beer, but there's a lot of science behind it, and there's a great story behind the brewers. A big shout out to them. I'm going to do a write-up about them because I love the idea that it's guys getting together for Breast Cancer Month and really trying to help a regional centre, which obviously really needs, fundraising right now for all charities is really tough. So that's the big hit. Good on you, Victoria and Beechworth and Albury. And for the rest of the Eastern Seaboard, what can I say? Bring back royalty. Let's get rid of democracy.
Amen. Do better. Come on, guys. We don't. Hey, Angela, can you stick around? Because later in the show, I want to interview actually about mainstream media. Our show is taken on a different flavour this week. We've been on the road. So stick around. Let's have a chat later on.
We're here with Judy Mintu, who is a counsellor. And I've been really curious to know what it's been like for your profession. So can you just talk us through your journey?
Absolutely. What's it been like? COVID times. Oh, I'm telling you, not just for myself, but for my psychologist colleagues, my psychiatrist colleagues, and social workers, it has been, how is the best way to describe it? Despair, because we are run off our feet. We hear about, obviously, the nurses, the doctors, but what people don't understand is that we are also in the front line, and we're dealing a lot with people's mental health. And mental health is just as vitally important as physical health. And we kind of, I don't know about you, but that kind of feels like it's being forgotten about. I mean, it's getting caught up right now, right? But at points, and this has always been my legacy too, your mental health is a priority. It's number one, as much as your physical health. If you're pouring in the kale and you're doing your muscle workouts and you're eating, the salads and all those sorts of things, you got to be doing the mental health work too, because the two go in hand. It's complete package. It's just not one of those things that, I'm going to have a buff body, but mentally I'm screwed. And at the moment, what we're finding is that people are really, really struggling because we've got a situation where people haven't got a purpose at the moment. They're feeling purposeless is probably the best way to describe it. And so a lot of our colleagues are trying to support people into feeling it's okay to feel the way you're feeling right now. Do you remember at the start of this situation where it was really, really big about, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be able to do lots of things.
I remember that.
Yeah. Clean out the garage.
Yeah, and I'm going to be able to do this course. I'm going to read this book and I'm going to do that. Well, what happens with that though is I've had a lot presented with me, a lot of clients saying, Jody, I kind of feel guilty that I'm not doing these things because I'm struggling, Jody. I had a job that I used to go to every day and I had a routine that I used to go to every day. And now I'm getting told, well, okay, I don't have these things, but hey, here's a point. Let's go reset. How about you do a new career? One of your new studies. Why don't you read this book? Why don't you do that? Blah, 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 blah. And then this guilt came across people. A lot of guilt came across people because they didn't have that energy to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
They were fatigued.
Yeah.
They were exhausted. They were fogged. They were overwhelmed. They were distraught. And then, of course, March came in, right? And that's when the first lockdown came in. And it was like, okay, well, I don't know much about this. And then that's when I got, like, busy. But I didn't get busy to the point where people could afford me. So I did a lot of pro bono because there were people that had lost their jobs.
Yeah.
People that didn't have the money. You know, and what am I meant to do? Like, turn someone away and say...
thank you for that. That's so beautiful. And I want to talk about the second wave. I mean, it looks very different than the first wave. You told me before that you're struggling to connect with some of your patients because of the restrictions that you have in your workplace. Can you explain to me how difficult it's been for you to... Well, can you explain, how it's been for you to communicate with your clients?
So I was allowed to see my clients one-on-one. And then it was like, oh, but now you can't see them, but you can see them, but you've got to wear all this stuff.
What did you have to wear?
I had to wear a mask. And because I wear glasses, I then had to wear a shield. Because they said goggles, but obviously if I don't wear my glasses, then I can't see. And so can you imagine that when I've been trained to read body language, I've been trained to watch somebody with how, not only what's coming out of their mouth, but what's going on with their body. What are you telling me really? Because what can be sometimes coming out of your mouth may not be what's really going on. And I'm able to pick that up. I can't do that when they've got a shield and a mask on themselves as well.
Do you feel that Daniel Andrews didn't really think about the actual practice of these rules?
Yeah, whether it's Daniel Andrews or one of his parties, you know, nobody sort of thought about, hang on a minute, what is counselling? What is psychotherapy? What is psychologists and psychiatrists? What do? How does it work? Read people.
Yeah.
Not just their lips or what their thoughts are, like what they're speaking. They read everything.
Actually, this is interesting because I've really been worried about domestic violence from the beginning of this, especially child abuse, things like that. Apparently 70% of all child abuse cases get reported by teachers and coaches.
Absolutely.
Not happening right now, obviously.
Well, that's right. So these things are going very unseen.
Yes.
Now, I know you don't specialise in child abuse or anything, but you do have a lot of domestic violence victims. And how are you able to help these patients?
Well, that's interesting because, you know, so I was telling you about my shields and my mask and that. Well, impossible to see clients one-on-one. So I then had to move all of my clients, like many of my colleagues, to Zooms. Now, what the situation here is that people have forgotten is a lot of this is lower demographics. People don't have tablets. We all have them, but not everybody does. People don't have smartphones. People don't have Wi-Fi and, you know, internet that never stops. And one thing about the domestic violence situation, Monica, is that people don't have privacy.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, if you're having a Zoom with me, you need privacy. And I've had to, unfortunately, do Zoom calls with people in cars.
Yeah. That's desperate, isn't it?
That is desperate.
Hiding from someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hiding and sort of, you know, and you could see the fear in them, in their eyes, because that's most of what I could see through a screen, because I can't read the rest of the body language, but you can see them looking around.
Plus they're isolated with their abusers.
Yep.
I just can't imagine. And to anyone out there who's listening and who's in an abusive situation...
It's heartbreaking for me because there's only so much I can do.
That's right.
And, you know, and there's certain, you know, code words that I would use with my clients to sort of get an understanding of whether, you know, I'd need to contact police or do those sorts of things. But there were situations where seriously, you're sitting in your car on your phone trying to get therapy. This isn't how it's supposed to be.
No,
Whereas previously they could come to my clinic, feel safe, and feel supported, you know, because humans are wired for connection. The moment you are born, we are wired for it. We look for it, we listen for it, we feel for it as soon as we come out of our mother's wombs. And that's what we're trained to do, any of us, you know, be that a psychologist, psychiatrist, myself. We're trained to be looking for that too. So that's why therapy is so important to be a one-on-one situation. so that that person can connect to that energy.
Yeah.
That is, you know, and to have that taken away in the second lockdown, stage 4 restrictions, it made our job so much harder.
Jody, can I ask you about the messaging we're receiving from the Premier, or anyone really, in the purple backdrop sermons that we're seeing every day? I know, it's quite
That's
scary.
That's an answer in itself. Anyway.
Well, obviously you're not happy with what we're hearing.
I don't watch a lot of them because I can't, because of my own mental health. I'm aware of what triggers my own mental health. And I'm also very aware of what my clients can be triggered by as well. So I say, you know what, if there are other ways that you can learn about what the restrictions are, what we're meant to be doing now, all of that, go ahead and do it that way.
Why? Why avoid the Dan Andrews press conference?
Because they're not positive. They can be very, very negative. They always start off with, you know, what the cases are, how unfortunately how many people have passed away. I don't know, and please, if I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected, but I've not ever heard him speak and stand on his podium and tell me how many have recovered.
I think I would probably post that on my page if I saw that.
I don't recall ever
No.
seeing that.
What is that doing to people if they're watching that every day?
That's fear. That's fear-mongering. There's no hope. You might as well snuff the candle out. I mean, people are walking through a dark tunnel feeling their way of how, like, where is the edge of this tunnel? Is there any edge?
Jody, can I ask a question about that? We often, people are saying there's no hope coming out from the Premier, but I watched his purple backdrop sermons, and unfortunately, it took me a long time to realise, only in the last few weeks, I was having some pretty dark memories of previous abuse come up. I'm thinking, what's going on here? This is strange. But every time he starts to talk about restrictions, and if you don't follow it, I'm going to put you back into lockdown, and I was having these flashbacks, and I thought, am I going crazy? Or is he actually employing tactics that an abuser would use? Because that's what I'm kind of feeling.
Well,
is that legitimate, or am I?
No, you're not going crazy, and your mind will be being triggered by that. You know, I'm feeling triggered by that fact that I don't have a voice. I'm being told what to do. It's very restricted. I'm only allowed to drive outside my 5 kilometres. So all of these are triggers.
Well, the strange thing I'm finding is that it's not so much triggering that I'm afraid of him, but I'm feeling drawn to him.
Okay.
I know, right? So at the risk of turning this into a counselling session, my concern is that there are some other domestic violence abuse victims and so on out there who we know that when they're in that cycle, it's not a matter of them hating their abuser. Often they're defending their abuser or justifying,
they normalising
it. And I'm finding myself normalising and justifying Dan's behaviour, which is what has scared me. And so I'm wondering if, in fact, he is abusing an entire population here. And we have people defending him.
You may notice the monotone voice that he uses. It's very dreamlike. I'm very standard, very speaking to you like this and very calm.
Repeating the same things.
Repeat the same. Those are sort of tactics. You know, I'd be close to say that. Have you ever looked up NLP?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you know much about
What's
it?
NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I'll get tongue-tied.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah, so it's different tactics that can be used to speak and help you feel safe with the words that I might use.
Right.
And because I know your mind, I'll know that I can put some music on at certain times. I'll know to say certain things to make you feel safe, all of those sorts of things. So that's, you know, I kind of see little parts of that. And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I can't diagnose, and I haven't sat with Dan, the man himself.
But there's something going on there.
Absolutely. The fear-mongering is one of the situations that's happening. I would have to say that we're being fear-mongered and it's making people feel very unsettled.
Yes.
So when we are constantly in a stress mode, I just spoke to you about your sympathetic, your fight and flight. So what happens when we're going fight and flight? Our adrenal glands empty, right? Because that's what happens. You're confronted with a big bear, your adrenal glands kick in, and you're running.
Yeah.
Well,
for the moment.
Short term.
This is all of what our minds and bodies need to be doing.
Sure.
This is how it keeps us safe.
Yeah.
So imagine doing that every day.
Well, what's going to happen if we keep doing this for months?
Oh, exhaustion, total burnout.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's going to happen. And that's what concerns me greatly. The total burnout. People don't understand that their adrenal glands are empty.
You don't feel it happening.
You don't.
So do you think it's possible that we could be having a mental health pandemic?
Oh, it's coming.
Following this.
I believe that it was coming. I mean, again, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist that can diagnose or do any of those sorts of things, but I have enough clients and I'm dealing with enough people to understand this is very serious.
And what is the government's solution for this potential pandemic?
Yeah. So we all know that the government's poured a lot of money in, right? Whether that be, this government or federal, they've all poured money in. My concern about that is, and I spoke briefly about this a few weeks ago, that the money that's being poured in is a lot of it's gone to Beyond Blue, and I've got nothing against Beyond Blue, but my concern is that it's using a coaching program that is not really...
How is it different to what you do?
Okay, so these people are being trained for 6 weeks for CBT. So CBT is cognitive behaviour therapy.
Can you learn that in 6 weeks?
No, you can't. I mean, you could learn a crash course. I guess that's kind of thing what the security guards learn at hotel quarantine, isn't it?
Dig.
A crash course, is it?
Yeah. No, you're just saying it how it is. No, you're right.
It's because, I mean, that's what I'm looking for security guards on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
This is all you have to do. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know. I haven't seen the course myself. I can't judge the course.
But it's 6 weeks.
But I know that it's 6 weeks. And I know that the years of training that I've had to do...
It's quite an insult, actually.
Yeah, well, it's you can't learn something like that in 6 weeks.
I wouldn't want to be talking to someone if I had suicidal thoughts.
Well, I'm feeling for the coaches as well that have to deal with that, because some of these people will be on the edge.
You have some pretty strong thoughts on mainstream media. Like, I think I asked you at one point, what is one thing that you would say to the whole of Victoria right now if you had the opportunity?
I would say turn off your televisions.
How do you stay informed, though?
Google, look it up for yourself.
Yes.
Because that is imperative. Then you might get one view here and then another view here. Then you can balance out and you can see both sides.
The truth in both
as
of them.
opposed to just being fed one sort of information. That's so dangerous, because I always say this to my clients: what we focus on is what's going to grow.
This has become a little bit of a counselling session. I hope you feel like a better person. I do.
I do.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable with you, but I think that's what you've been doing for so many years.
Yeah, she's brainwashed you to feel comfortable.
No, but this is the point. We need more people like you with those skills that have been honed and developed over a long period of time. And importantly, I think we're coming out of this lockdown, hopefully, we're going to need a lot of help, not just a few people who are deep in it, but most of us are going to need to be lifted up out of this.
Yeah, and unfortunately there's such a waiting list though. This is only just the little beginning of what we've got to come.
Can I ask you just to finish up, what people can do, if we can't all go and see someone in consult one-on-one, what could people do to process and heal through this, not just kind of bolster their mental health and kind of avoid it, but how can we actually heal and grow as we exit this lockdown?
If you can't see a therapist, click into your happiness chemicals. So your dopamines, your serotonins, your oxytocins.
How
do you just do that?
Get a puppy.
Yeah, well, oxytocin, absolutely, get a puppy. So dogs, giving compliments brings up your oxytocin levels, dopamine, walking, serotonins, eating good foods,
exercise.
breathing. People don't realise that taking some big, deep breaths, getting that oxygen to pump around in that head, really, it's a simple thing, but it really helps. And I also say to my clients, because we've been in lockdown for so long, and as you said, you're getting triggered, right? So some things are probably coming up for your past, which takes you then off to another little pathway and off to another little world. I always say to my clients, get back into the now. And how to do that is using your 5 senses so that you can present yourself with the now, being mindful. That will help you heal. It will give you some good tools to start healing.
If you had 30 seconds of Dan's undivided attention, what would you say to him?
I would say, please let us all go back to living the way we were before, because, and please don't just keep pouring money into mental health. Actually do something that's going to support people with mental health issues, as opposed to just pouring money. I'm tired of hearing about money getting poured into it. I really think utilise the people that you've got at your hands and really focus on what is it that these people will need.
I think that's a great message.
This has been, yes, you get great advice to Dan. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Angela, thanks for sticking around. I wanted to interview you about mainstream media. So what people need to understand is that not only are you have a position on Sydney City Council, you lead political parties and so on, but you have been particularly active in the media for a number of years. So your writings and your video appearances are in Sky News. I think I saw you on The Drum yesterday on ABC. Is that right?
That's right.
I don't know why you do that, but anyway, The Drum drives me mad sometimes. You have an understanding of media that we really need. Why is mainstream media so slow to report on some of the stories that people want to hear?
Look, it is a tough gig out there for journos in any form of media, and I think we should both classify ourselves as being part of that media now. Perhaps not mainstream, but lucky for us, mainstream isn't as popular as it used to be. It's become, I think, even more personal for journos. So they really are, a lot of them are putting their own personal views forward as opposed to presenting balance. And the way that I understand media and how it should be is to have to understand both sides of the story in order to present a balanced view. You can't do that if all you're putting forward is your own personal view. You can't put that view forward if you only have the journey that you're walking in your shoes and just regaling, what your experience has been. If we only did that, Matt, then why would we have any form of democracy when we supposedly have two or more different views when it comes to politics?
Well, do you believe that our journalists are misrepresenting where the public lies? Because we would say, 60% or more of our media is centre left or further left. But the public is probably mostly centre right in Australia. It's a little bit more conservative.
It is a little bit more conservative, but you're not getting enough conservative journalists putting the information out there. And what you're getting is a lot of extreme right personalities involved in that media. And therefore they're being tarred with not the journalist feather. And that is part of it, Matt. If you ask some of those sensational right-wing broadcasters who are shock jocks, they will tell you that I'm paid to put my opinion forward. I'm not necessarily paid to put a balanced view forward. So where are our conservative journalists? That's what I want to know. Where are they to balance?
Well, from what I'm told from this ABC reporter is that they are there in the ABC. It's just difficult to go against the culture of it. Even though the editors are saying, hey, be a bit more balanced, everyone. In ABC, everyone lives, it's in Ultimo in Sydney, and everyone lives in the inner west in Marrickville and so on. So it's just this general milieu of inner west lefties, unfortunately.
And that's not the experience that I get, and I'm brought on because I'm not left.
Well, when they talked about moving journalism to Parramatta, that would be good. They moved the ABC headquarters to Parramatta. That would have changed the makeup and feel of it. But I'm wondering,
they all had a heart attack.
Yeah. They don't want to leave Marrickville. In Newtown. I'm wondering, though, if new media is taking over. I mean, in the US, you see, obviously, things like Joe Rogan, long form, similar to my Discernible show, but you see like Dave Rubin and small, and even the Young Turks on the far left. You see this new media phenomenon coming up. Do you see that taking over or competing in any way with the established networks?
Absolutely. And because those new forms of rebellious or rogue media are coming through, and you and I are part of that rebellion, we have a niche now, an area that we can dive into because production is cheaper and we have bandwidth because of YouTube and because of Zoom, like what we're doing now. It is more accessible for us. It's no longer the realm of 9, 7, 10 and 2 or Fox or Sky. There are other abilities for other people to view content like ours on demand.
Our theory here, the People's Project, is that the big mainstream media, the way they edit and select stories is based on some level of pressure from the management. Now, I don't buy into the idea that Rupert Murdoch is there telling the Daily Telly what to write, and journalists have come out and said, he doesn't tell us anything. But certainly cultural pressures would be there in large organizations. Let's say even at Sky News, Is it true to say that the narrative and the selection of stories is coming from some kind of top-down authority, or is it a grassroots what the people want? How does it work inside Sky and the Drum and so on?
So it's really important that you understand that even mainstream media makes their existence and their living on either how popular they are, so they have to be able to justify their existence in terms of viewers, subscribers, listeners, all sorts of media. And you often hear when, mainstream radio comes out with the ratings rates and they say, we're the number one show here or we're the number one show there. And that's how they up their advertising rates. Media like you and I, SME TV and the People's Project, we're relying on actual engagement. So we can actually measure, right? We can measure. They can't. They estimate, and that's been the realm of how they've existed for so many years. Now, we come along and we disrupt. The status quo is no longer the same. Inch by inch, day by day, interview by interview, Matt, you and I are really clawing into their numbers. We're swimming in this pool. We're the sharks now, not them. We're the sharks. They're a little bit defenseless because they're not nimble. They're not startups. They can't change. They've got boards, they've got bureaucracy, they've got multi-million-dollar contracts with their talent. You and I, we have this unique contract with our organisation, right? We're free. It's an interesting cost. So we've got this freedom to do and say what we think are views that need to be put forward and be heard. You've got bureaucracy, and don't forget that just because Channel 9 and Channel 10 and Channel 7 aren't owned by government, they might as well be, because that's the master that they're answering to. If they want access to the hallowed halls of government or big business, then they have to play a game, and that's what they're all doing. And just like you started the People's Project, well, you tell me, not me tell you, you tell me, why did you start the People's Project?
Because the people didn't have a voice. And this is really what I'm wondering, if it's going to work from what you've seen in media, if our plan's going to work, because we're going to have to start somehow funding this show in the coming months. And we're thinking, if we take on advertisers or any form of network, if they offer to pay us because of our reach, suddenly we're beholden to their views. Now, they may say we can post what we want and say what we want, but there's going to be some pressure. Hey, you can't really say that about Coca-Cola or that MP or whatever, and we're going to feel that pressure. So we're wondering if we can build up a supporter base for this from the people. So who pays us? The people. I don't know how we're going to figure that out, but if they're that funds this show, we have to listen to them. And if they want us to report on XYZ, we have to report on XYZ, or they'll stop supporting us. They'll stop paying us. Is that not the perfect model to make a media show? I don't know.
You and I both believe that there's a need for our view, because our view is representative of the people that feel similar to us. I also believe, though, that you and I and Monica are people who would put the other view forward.
Absolutely.
If someone came forward to deliver that view and asked to participate. And that's all it is, Matt. It's sensible people with a strong view that are both eloquent and have data and facts to back it up.
Fair enough. Yeah, look, I would love to have Brett Sutton on. I would love to have Dan Andrews on. He's never going to come on.
Well, then, have you put a shout out on social?
I'm doing it right now. Okay, everyone, come on. We need to have some good conversations in here. You'll get a fair go coming on here, that is for sure. So, hey, thank you, Angela. Thank you for running us through the media.
Not at all.
And we'll definitely talk to you again. And let's make media great again. Let's not do a Trump comment. All right, let's just end it.
Let's just do better.
Let's do better. All right. Thank you, Angela. See ya.
So this week has been a bit different for me. I've been able to get out onto the field and kind of pretend to be an investigative journalist. So I hope to do more of that because I really enjoy it. Now, I want to remind you that the bus has a long shelf life. We're going to be visiting different areas. The bus is going to be around for a while, so I will update you on where we're going to be. It could be last minute, but keep up to date on the Reignite Democracy Australia Facebook page to know where it's going to be. Secondly, the council elections close on the 23rd of October, so make sure you get your ballot papers in before then. I do have a quick instructional video coming out, and also on my website, if you go to the council elections campaign there, you'll see that we have some survey answers from some of the candidates, and you can get an idea of what kind of a person they are. They are quite skewed questions to what's going on in the political sphere right now, but I feel like that's what RDA members want to know about. So go to the website, keep up to date on the Facebook, and there's lots coming up, and I hope that next week more exciting things happen. And Matt, again, I'm so sorry I couldn't be there with you. Thank you for keeping the ship afloat.
Thanks for the video message, Mon. It's great to see people supporting the bus and local businesses like Harry's Clothing in Berwick, however you say it. I have no idea how Melburnians say their suburbs. What's with Prahran? No idea. Anyway, we have some more adventures coming up with the bus this weekend. If you want to keep up to date with that, follow Reignite Democracy Australia's Facebook page, and have a great week. See you next week for episode 7.